Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode on the JayBee and Milly channel. I am JB, and of course, with me is the legendary Mark Marsh.
Hey everybody.
So, we've got some interesting topics to discuss today. The first is going to be about Scooby Apocalypse and if it deserves an adaptation. So, this can be anything from a television show that's animated, a live action series, anything that you can think of. I guess, first and foremost, how familiar are you with Scooby Apocalypse in general?
I got all the comics. That's how heavy invested I am in the series. I brought every issue. I'm still hunting down all the special issues as well. I, it's an underrated one, but I was like, it definitely deserves a TV series. Not a movie because, there's too much
Yeah.
to put into a movie and I don't want to see it tarnished. So I'd rather it be a series and I'd rather it be animated or anime style, which would be better for this type of work because it's the apocalypse one. And I feel like if you've seen the comics, you would know that a standard cartoon wouldn't do justice. But if it was animation, like anime style, it would live up to the comics more and it'd be better for the audience. So it could be the first, if they do ever do it, it'd be the first Scooby Doo anime based on a comic that everyone loves. And if it
Hmm.
was live action, I feel like it would just suck too much because most of the budget would just tank too much. And we've seen them do stuff like that before on low budget live action Scooby Doo's, and they weren't that great.
See, that's the thing. I'm thinking the reason why I wouldn't, and why I agree with you, why I would be hesitant to make it live action is the whole Scooby conundrum. Because we know from Mystery Begins, Curse of the Light Monster, that when the budget isn't there, Scooby just looks kind of wacky. And to have that wackiness in quite a serious tone story would be off-putting. Or if not, it could just be cheesy. You can correct me because I think you'll know more about Scooby Apocalypse than me. But Scooby can talk in that series,
Yes.
and so that's big budget stuff because he's talking literally, is it sentences or is it just more coherent, like rows and like what are we dealing with there?
Yeah, so he's more, I wouldn't say full sentences, but he's more like, I want to say half as robot because of his intellect's been enhanced. So he can speak, but he still has those dog traits. So everyone
Hmm.
can understand him properly, not just Shaggy.
That would be
But I
quite
feel
big
like
budget.
it'd be a big budget. That's why if it's anime, they can save so much on the budget
Yeah.
and focus more on the cast.
Also, with live action as well, they could cut corners quite easily and just give Scooby a bit of technology and just have that light up whenever he wants to speak. But then I think you get into the territory of maybe being a bit goofy. Like, I've got visions of Ricky Gervais playing a dog in that Spy Kids movie. But again, it worked for Cosmo in Guardians, but I agree with you. But is there a particular anime that you would want it to be stylized of? Because I know there is that anime style, but is there a particular series that you can think of? Because in my mind, I'm like complete anime swine. Instantly, I'm thinking of the new look of the
Oh,
Scott Pilgrim series. I don't know anything about like anime proper, if you can call it that.
okay. Yeah, it's got to be something. Oh, because I've been watching a lot of anime. So I would probably say in the style. Oh, could either be in the style of Rise of the Shield Hero or 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 from Complex World Strongest. It's about one of the two, really. It depends because that Gore and that Bucky is another good one as well with the animation style. So that's another good one to look forward to. I wouldn't say One Piece because that anime style is like depending on which area you look at. Like now it looks more polished, but back in the day it was more hand drawn, so it's more authentic. So I really, if I was gonna say One Piece, I mean at the start when it's hand drawn and not when it's computer generalized. Uh, but yeah, I'd say mostly four of them would do.
And I am of the understanding that anime can theoretically come from anywhere, but more often than not, it is primarily Japanese production and stuff. Would that be the ideal for this then for you? Would it be animation in Japan. We get Japanese voice actors in there, and then we could almost have, say, Matthew Lillard come in to do the English dub, for instance. Like, would
Yeah,
that be your vision?
that would be my vision of it. The perfect holy circle, just perfect trilogy all around. Like that's just how it should be. Because you need the standard one first, and then the subtitles. You need the actual Japanese or Chinese translations first, and then you get the English dub.
See, I like the sound of that. I think my version would differ slightly in terms of that, but digging into yours just a little bit more, I think people criticize something like, dare we mention it, the Mindy Kaling Velma show for something like, what if a kid watches it? What if a kid stumbles upon it on HBO Max, for instance, because it is that Velma name and animated, and there is a bad stigma that I don't agree with that animation equals for kids and stuff like that. Like, would there be something in place in your mind to let people know this is Scooby, we're gonna make it authentic Scooby, but maybe
But
don't let your
if
child
they were
watch
going
it?
to do an anime, it would either be on Crunchyroll instead of HBO because that's where most of the anime is, or Netflix. So really, it's
Ooh.
down to the parents' like provisional guidance to have their kids accessing that stuff. So I feel it'd be harder for them to find the anime version because it's not anime is not really put on normal television like we're used to. It's mostly on the selected network, which is designed for anime or Crunchyroll service, which is what I use with my Netflix as well. So it's like it really depends on the preference. But I feel like even if they did stumble across it, that just means we've got a new candidate to get into the line of anime. So it's a win-win.
See, I
And
kind of
if they are going to do an anime of it, it has to be at least 24 episodes for the opening season because I hate it when they do stuff with 12 episodes and I'm just like, why are you doing 12 episodes? You could get another 12 in there.
like, I know that that's probably a bad thing to say, but at no point have we ever positioned ourselves as people that are like on the parent side or whatever, because I do acknowledge that there is some stuff that just isn't for kids and shouldn't be allowed to be consumed by kids. But at the end of the day, like if we're talking about more our generation, what that equivalent would be, I have vivid memories of sneaking into my older sister's room when she was in school to get the DVD of the first Scream movie and secretly watching that because when that was on, I was told to go to bed and I was curious about what I was missing out on. And it did traumatize me, but a little horror fan was born that day that I snuck that out and watched it. And again, we can debate this for a while, but like you say, like an anime fan or even just a fan of apocalyptic fiction could be born
Yeah.
if that were to happen.
Because think about it, someone who watched Velma on HBO never said afterwards, "Oh, I'm a HBO fan." No, they
No, or
didn't.
like, oh, the
But
Scoobies.
if they watched the Scooby on anime on Crunchyroll, they're like, "Oh, I'm an anime fan now," because you get so many good recommendations. If you HBO, no one's ever recommended me to go join HBO. Or someone's like, "Oh, HBO recommend me this." No, because it sucks, and you know it sucks. But on Crunchyroll or Netflix, go to the anime section, they see what you're watching, and they have perfect recommendations
Yeah.
that they can suggest to
And we
you
can't even
that you
get
would like.
HBO here, but I don't know if it is just a Velma thing. Because what am I thinking of? Recent HBO show, what am I thinking of? It was quite recent. I don't know what it is.
We got
It's
uh,
something animated.
Paramount Plus or something like that, but
There is a show that was recently done. I think it's animated. If I can remember it, I will flash it up on the screen, like in the edit. But I Googled that and you can purchase that on. Oh, okay. No, it was on top of it. It was Gremlin's Secret of the Mogwai. That you can buy in UK YouTube store, in the UK YouTube store. You cannot do the same for Velma. Equally, though, HBO isn't the only offender because AMC or AMC Plus, there's a ridiculous situation around that where all the Walking Dead spin-offs that are happening, you cannot physically get in the UK or digitally get in the UK.
yeah, which is annoying because some of the spin-offs like Dead City, the Dow Dixon one,
The
are
Rick
all really good,
Grimes,
and the
like
Rick Grimes one that
all
trailer
just
got announced, and
nowhere.
I'm like, How dare you not release that in the UK?
Especially because they did so well, bringing it over to Disney Plus for the final season airing. I think it was still a week behind AMC Plus, but that was good. And even now, like when you think about exports, like Americans can watch Doctor Who as it's being broadcast on Disney Plus. Like, I think the world is going to a more globalized way as far as entertainment's concerned, to the point where HBO Max and AMC Plus are just essentially dinosaurs in that market space now.
I don't really use Disney Plus anymore. I still use BBC iPlayer
Yeah, I
because
love the iPlayer.
I use it to recap all Doctor Who because I love Doctor Who, have since 2005.
Mm. I mean, oh, I could easily just turn this into a whole Doctor Who discussion now, but like we can save that
Yeah,
for
because
later. But
I'm looking forward
oh,
to the new Doctor.
me too. I
It's
would
actually
love,
quite interesting. You know, it's nice
yeah.
seeing David Tennant back for 3 episodes, and it was really good seeing the new Doctor. So
Oh,
it's just
I'm
like it's going the right
excited.
way.
I'm excited. Like, I mean, that's the point though. It's like excitement that not everyone is a fan of necessarily, but when you're talking about it, I think it is something that is more culturally aware, unlike Velma, because even if something is divisive, which I do think that Scooby Apocalypse, if it is announced, how you say, like an anime or in any instance, I think it will be inherently divisive with purists. Like even the YouTube Mystery Incorporated series, there were so many purists that were like, "This doesn't interest me," Scooby Doo should be for kids, and that's not to be and that's not to be on them, like that's their opinion and I respect it. But when you think about something, if
Well,
it is on HBO Max, it's a bit like all we can see from that, the majority of audiences outside of the US is from reactionary YouTubers like Nerdrotic or anti-SJ, like you know what I mean, all those type of like reactionary things that we might not even see. We just are told what to think about them, which I don't think is a good kind of metric.
yeah, well, think about it now, like with Scooby Doo, like, if you got a kid watching Zombie Island, chances are they're going to get nightmares.
Yeah. Because there were like that scene where they dissolve.
Yeah,
That is like that in Scooby Apocalypse with that level of gore. I think that's still fine. It's
I'm just
just
like,
even now they wouldn't do that.
because it looked, if they did that scene with the disintegration now, it wouldn't look anywhere near as good
No.
because that's how much like to do it really good on that level animation on the computers, you got to put in a lot of more effort and a lot more work, and then the budget will cost more. Whereas back in the day, you hand drawn those frame by frame, and it's just like it looks so much better. It's why I like the Dragon Ball Z Broly movie because it was all done hand drawn old style. So I really liked it because they went back to the roots. It just shows that when they go back to something old, it just shows so much more details to the audience. It's why I still love the old style of animation because they don't teach that no more. They just don't. Like you gotta have a lot of skill to do frame by frames of them with tracing paper and everything. We used to do that back in school. Take an image, trace over it, move it along, retrace it. Now you don't really get people doing that. Now it's just like, oh, on the computer, and it just like add this filter file and just oh there you go, it does it all by itself. Again, what's the point? You're pretty
No,
much just letting
like
the
it
AI
is.
do your job.
I'm sure it is definitely a skill within and of itself, but it definitely doesn't feel the same. Maybe it's a bit nostalgic, but like when they tried to recreate it, it just didn't look as good. I don't know if that's on the team though, because I'm sure that there's another production house with a budget that
Because they
could
made it look
do
so
that.
creepy as well. Like
But
just the tone of the movie, the elements where they were in the swamp. Then you had that nice creepy background
mm,
music with the that just built up the hype. It's like playing a Resident Evil game. You know, when you get the music playing, you feel like, oh shit, that's the music playing of someone about to come through the door. And it's just like that's why I can't play Resident Evil games because as soon as I'm there exploring, the music comes, I'm thinking, oh guy that comes follows you around is going to appear, and it does. And I shit myself. So I could do any other game. I just can't do the Resident Evil games. It's just like I panic so much because I like taking my time with items. And I'm just there like thinking, okay, I'll pause, gotta change my stuff. No, I can still get attacked thinking, what's the point of bringing the item box? I should pause everything else.
I guess that's a good topic as well. Tone, the tone of the series. So would you want it to be pretty much panel for panel, frame for frame, Scooby Apocalypse as it was in the book, but simply in anime style, animated for the screen? Or what adaptations would you
See,
make?
when they normally do, I guess you could say the comics is more like the comics or manga. When they do anime adaptations of them, it's never scene by scene. Even though the story plays out the same, it's always somewhat different how it's laid out. And I think the best one that I could best describe it is Solo Leveling. I read all 200 chapters of the manga. Brilliant. Loved it. The manga was amazing. And now the Solo Leveling that's out now, episode 2, and that's like, yeah, okay, there's only gonna be like, I think it's like 24 episodes, I think 12 episodes for the first season, but it's like you're never gonna get all the same things. I feel like the first episode is pretty much chapters 1 to 12, and I feel like episode 2 is pretty much 12 to like 18. I think that's how it's playing out, but it's like it's not really what I would say scene by scene. So I think if they did do it with Scooby Apocalypse, you get some of the scenes there, but there'd be also new stuff added in there, so it makes you wonder that when you go back watching it, you're like, oh, this is different than what happened in the actual comics or in the actual anime. As well as like, because sometimes I like it, but at the same time I'm thinking, nah, the manga was better.
Hmm.
It's like from Commonplace to World's Strongest, the manga is so much more better because he kills more people. I know that's bad, okay? That's not the oh wow, Mark went straight to Kinner thinking
Yeah, just like
it
the higher death
it,
count and just like, hey,
it
instead of
the
five star rating, like 10 kills.
I'm just like he killed a lot more people. Like he killed more humans than monsters in the manga, and he did it so spectacularly. And it's just like when you watch the anime, it's like he doesn't kill anywhere nearly as much as he should do. He's still a psychopath, but a badass at it. But it's
Mm.
like I just felt that the manga did him more justice. I felt the only good thing about the anime is his vehicle that he drives around in is more better than the actual one that was in the manga. But that's just my preference. But I feel like he killed more people in the manga, and I like that. I go back to watching the manga, like, I read through it, and I'm like, oh, they should have added that scene in. Oh, he should they should have added a scene where he pretty much one-shotted the hero and humiliated him with a tear gas bomb. And I'm just like, they didn't add any of that in. They skipped a good part of him beating their asses.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that's the one thing. It's like sometimes it's good, but sometimes I take some stuff out that
yeah.
you just thinking, why didn't you include that? Because that's what goes through my mind. Is thinking, why?
But we don't want it watered down for sure, because there is some definitely themes towards the ending and storylines that you'd want to see play out. And that's the thing as well, like a part of me is kind of guilty because I do want it to happen, but I think then like what is really new that Scooby-Doo for everyone? Because you'd go straight from Velma to this, which is crazy. I mean, my dream is that they did do the budget for live action. It's just my thing is I know Warner Brothers now to the point where I know that they're not gonna give it the budget that it would need. And so it's
No, they're
kind of
stingy.
like it's such a losing battle to say I wish they would do this or I wish they would do that. And I think there's a world where they could, except they would need to, like, for them to justify it, go for completely stunt casting and for it to be on the big screen, which I'm not against. It's just Warner Brothers, they're kind of a company that it strikes me as they only care about marketing or merchandising if it's going on the big screen. If it isn't, they kind of don't want to know, which I think is a shame. Because this story, it's reminding me a bit of an adaptation that we had recently in the Golden Compass or His Dark Materials, where they made a live action movie, and I actually quite liked it. But because they overextended themselves on whatnot, it just couldn't come into fruition. But then they did a bit more of a smaller scale, but honed in BBC series, and I think they did it well. I wish that there was a universe where we could already skip through the first stage where there was one Scooby Apocalypse movie that failed in live action, and now we're at the stage where they're scaling it back and we're getting a more intimate story for live action. Because I don't see them just naturally going there with the budget that it needs. But that would be my instant reaction because I'm thinking there hasn't been something to fill the void of live action apocalypse stuff for a while now. Like obviously we've mentioned that they are doing Walking Dead spin-offs, but I don't know how much hype they've got just because of marketing and the fact that they're not there globally. Like I just don't really see that coming to fruition. Whereas the Cronenberg looking monsters that are in Scooby Apocalypse, that reminds me of something from Stranger Things, which
Or Rick
is
and Morty.
quite popular. Yeah, which is very popular things now that they could actually lean into. Like they could easily say, this is, Famous Five meets Stranger Things, Scooby Apocalypse. Like I think that there's a way that they could market that, but I just know that they never would. That's my thing. And with live action as well, you can make it so different from a Mystery Incorporated or a Be Cool Scooby Doo that there's not really a way that a child could click on it and kind of go in ignorantly type thing.
If they were going to do live action, it's mostly all the costumes for all the Cronenberg monsters. That's going to be a lot on the budget.
That's true. But then again, they did it for Stranger Things on Netflix series, although again, like they spent big money on that.
But then think where Stranger Things started, where it ended. Like it started on like not a big budget, and
True.
they didn't really a lot of budget to show the monsters. It's like only until season 3 or 4 where they had the bigger budget to show more of the
Yeah.
creatures. Whereas if they did Scoob Apocalypse right from the start, look how many monsters are in that. Like it's gonna take the first season just to build up to that. If they were gonna do it live action, that's why I'm like it's gonna be too much of a big budget, and Warner Bros aren't gonna pay out for that. And if they are going to do animation, it would make sense doing an anime style because then you can crush two stones with one bird. This is like you can just because then you get people on the anime side watching it because they like watching anime, and you get Scooby Doo fans watching it, and as a bonus, we could move them to the good side and enjoy anime. So it's a win-win.
You definitely are right. The only way that they could possibly bank on that is if they made it an older Scooby story. Oh, and this is crossing some lines. But they could bank on nostalgia by bringing in the cast of the first live action movie and second live action movie, because obviously people returning is a big thing nowadays. And it is, like you say, with Stranger Things, it built up a fan base. I guess you could quite easily say, well, now we're not just making something that's on its own, but it's got the fan base and nostalgia of those two childhood, I don't want to call them classics, but childhood things that meant a lot to people of a certain age. The only thing is then people would interpret that as a part three, and you know, then that could be blurred. But yeah, I mean, the budget alone on the monsters without even thinking about Scooby-Doo would be astronomical. Oh, it's just a shame because they can either do one of two things. They could, one, hire an amazing cast with a big following that could bring people there and do like a lackluster first movie, but it could bring people in. Or they could spend a load of money on the monsters and Scooby and hire relatively unknowns and just bank off it, being successful with its own right, which it could be. But I mean, it's Warner Brothers. They're not going to hire unknowns and spend like millions on monsters. It's just not happening as much as I would like it. But yeah, Scooby Apocalypse, I do think it does deserve an adaptation. What the adaptation is, I guess people in the comment section can decide from now what you'd want to see, who you would cast, like what production team even you want to see behind it. So yeah, Mark, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on my Twitter at Luigi or Instagram at MarkMarsh94, and I'm on Twitch as well at Luigi. Also, you can follow me on my YouTube channel.
That is amazing. I'll leave them linked in the description down below. Thank you so much to everyone for watching. If you do want to see more, then please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.